The Gaza ceasefire agreement, what are the real stakes? Understanding the Israel-Hamas discussions. President Donald Trump is aiming to secure a ceasefire in Gaza next week. This initiative will unfold when Trump welcomes Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House, as his negotiation team works diligently to bridge the divide between Hamas and Israel. The goal? To finalize an agreement that will free hostages and cease the hostilities. This meeting between Trump and Netanyahu comes after Trump ordered strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, aiming then to negotiate a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. This military action has sparked controversy among his staunchest supporters, some feeling disillusioned by his commitment to avoid new conflicts. "I will be very strong with Netanyahu ending the conflict. I am confident we'll reach an agreement next week," Trump declared to the press on Tuesday. At the moment, Hamas is considering a revised proposal for a 60-day ceasefire presented by mediators from Qatar and Egypt. The mediators are working tirelessly to create a foundation for serious negotiations, according to a statement from Hamas issued Wednesday. Israelis are hopeful that on this visit, Netanyahu and Trump will reveal a ceasefire deal alongside agreements with other Arab nations. "This is an extremely significant visit," noted Danny Danon, Israel's ambassador to the United Nations. Despite facing opposition from far-right coalition members, Netanyahu has more maneuverability to agree to a peace settlement, buoyed by growing support following the coordinated U.S.-Israel strikes on Iran. Polls indicate that this action was supported by 82% of Jewish Israelis. It's crucial to note that Israeli officials believe that the ceasefire being discussed does not mean an end to the conflict. This isn't a commitment to end the war, Danon clarified. The up-to-date draft of the deal, dated June 30th, suggests that Hamas would release 28 Israeli hostages, 10 living and 18 deceased, through 5 phases during the 2-month ceasefire. In collaboration with the United Nations and the Palestine Red Crescent Society, humanitarian aid would be allowed to enter Gaza in substantial quantities from the get-go. On the first day of the ceasefire, 8 living hostages would be released, and the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, would begin withdrawing from certain areas in northern Gaza. By the end of the week, they would pull out from parts of the south as well. Notably, unlike a previous ceasefire, Hamas is not permitted to conduct public hostage handover events. Additionally, by day 10, Hamas is required to detail the status and condition of the remaining living hostages, while Israel would provide updates on the more than 2,000 Palestinians detained by Israeli forces during the conflict. In return for these hostages, Israel would also be expected to release a substantial number of Palestinian prisoners. For quite a while, negotiations have hit a standstill, primarily due to conflicting desires. Israel seeks a short-term ceasefire to secure the release of hostages, while Hamas demands a lasting peace and the complete departure of Israeli troops. Trump's chief negotiator, Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, has found it challenging to promote a temporary ceasefire due to this fundamental disagreement. The revised proposal offers guarantees from Trump on both the ceasefire commitments and ongoing negotiations to secure a lasting peace. Hisham Youssef, a retired Egyptian diplomat, noted that Hamas might feel cornered into accepting this deal due to lack of external support and the dire circumstances in Gaza. Another Arab diplomat reflected that Hamas may prefer enduring hardship instead of agreeing to a deal that might lead to renewed Israeli aggression. Netanyahu has been hesitant to sign onto any agreement that involves the withdrawal of Israeli forces and the release of the hostages, mainly to keep his far-right coalition partners on board, who have stated they will leave the government if Gaza is no longer controlled by Israel. Israeli military officials have informed Netanyahu that the primary goal, weakening Hamas's ability to pose the threat to Israel, has been achieved. However, the return of the hostages would likely only be possible through a negotiated settlement. IDF Chief of Staff Eyal Zamir stated that the military's objectives were nearing completion, with additional operational options for future strategies on the table. Hamas, he added, suffered further weakening from the conflict with Iran, and Netanyahu's major supporter of the group. Israeli officials are striving to wrap up the ceasefire within a larger multinational package that could reshape Israel's security in the region. Politically, Netanyahu might never have a better chance than now, after the success with Iran, which will eventually lose its impact. To negotiate a regional agreement, kick off a diplomatic process with Syria, engage Saudi Arabia, and bring back the hostages, altogether the greatest advantage he could secure before the elections. commented retired Major General Israel Ziv. On Wednesday, Netanyahu began to hint at a potential deal, mentioning in a letter to the court overseeing his corruption trial that he would travel to Washington to discuss the matter with Trump. Simultaneously, Israel's Foreign Minister, Gideon Sa'ar, acknowledged some positive signs in the renewed U.S.-led ceasefire efforts. The Israeli government's more conservative coalition parties have responded with a unified opposition to the unfolding agreement. Meanwhile, Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid has offered a safety net proposal to ensure the government retains its parliamentary majority, should the far-right factions back out. Trump, who has been critical of the Israeli prosecutors handling Netanyahu's corruption case, voiced his support on social media. It's insane what the unrestrained prosecutors are doing to Bibi Netanyahu. He wrote, praising Netanyahu as the war hero working towards peace. Hamas's political bureau member, Kamal Abu Aoun, emphasized that Hamas leaders were negotiating intensively to finalize a comprehensive ceasefire. This wave of diplomatic efforts was initiated when Egypt and Qatar enhanced their mediation following the 12-day conflict between Israel and Iran, which reached a pause on June 24. Arab nations consider ending this conflict critical for regional security and stability. Egyptian Foreign Minister Badr Abdelati spoke with Steve Witkoff by phone late Wednesday, agreeing to step up their efforts to reach a ceasefire. The two also discussed enhancing the flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Since the onset of the conflict in Gaza on October 7, 2023, triggered by Hamas-led attacks that caused extensive casualties on both sides, Israel has conducted operations in Gaza, resulting in significant casualties and injuries. The International Committee of the Red Cross has expressed deep concern over the escalating hostilities in Gaza, with essential medical supplies running critically low and many public hospitals unable to function properly. The United Nations highlighted that Israel's restrictions on fuel have exacerbated the humanitarian crisis, threatening crucial civilian resources. Fuel is not a side issue. It is the backbone of humanitarian aid, emphasized Jan Egeland, Secretary General of the Norwegian Refugee Council. Without it, the entire system collapses, leading to catastrophic consequences for civilians.